Let's address the numbers of Bank of India. Looking at the numbers, it was a bit of an okay-ish set. The NI performance was good. Even the profits prior to provisioning was good. So let's talk a bit more about that and the future outlook. We have with us Mr. A.K. Das, the MD and CEO of Bank of India. Thank you so much for joining in today on the show. So what were the factors that led to, the good NI and, PPP performance this quarter?
NII, one of the reasons was despite, although taking a trend into consideration, it looks a little muted, but our business growth, core business growth has been quite robust. That too in a very challenging situation. For example, even in both Y-on-Y basis and YTD basis also, it's been quite satisfactory. Our RAM segment grew by about 6%, that is YTD, from April to September. And year on year, it was about 10% plus. Similarly, MSME, we have grown by about 9% YTD and 13% YOY. So the business growth helped us in improving our interest income to the extent of 5%. And second, we also affected certain, decline in our interest cost on deposits, which was, I think, to the tune of 2%. As you are aware, rate transmission, we have affected both on assets and liabilities. On asset side, we have done it by about 135 basis points, and liability side, similar 136 points weighted basis.
Okay. Mr. Das, how was the deposit liability franchise? How is it shaping up? Because we noticed that it's grown by 22% year on year. So do you see this continuing? What's the YTD deposit growth?
We got a very robust liability franchise. You will be happy to know that our domestic deposits, year on year, it has grown up by 22%. And whereas for the industry, it was 11%. Similarly, Y2D basis, our deposits have gone up by 10%, and for the industry, it was 5 points. So we are almost risen our deposits at the double the pace of the banking system as a whole. That way, we are not very overtly concerned about the deposit growth. We have some liquidity, which we are planning to deploy it into good assets. So deposits, absolutely no concern. CASA, we have been able to maintain 2,07,000 crore as we are having in June. CASA ratio has come down because term deposit growth has outpaced the CASA growth. It's about 13%. So that way it has affected the ratio, but we got a stable CASA and a very robust liability franchise. So there is no concern as such on the deposit front.
Okay, Mr. Das, what's the outlook on credit growth? Currently, you're running at 10%. How much will corporate and MSME grow? And, you're given a full year guidance of 7%. Do you think you're on track?
Mostly it is RAM segment where there is a lot of opportunities and there will be a pent-up demand. I think it has already started, green shoots are visible, and we have done so far about 10% year on year. We are expecting a 15% growth in RAM, driven predominantly by retail and MSME. And corporate, there is a decline because there is no capex happening. But I'm sure in MSME, where the activities are back to the extent of 60-65% compared to 20% in March, I think MSME also will give us good opportunity. We have done well in the recently the government initiated guarantee scheme.
Okay. Mr. Das, what's the outlook on provisioning? Has PCR hit the peak? Because, profits are currently looking a bit suppressed. So what's the PCR on the large pool of NCLT accounts as well? Is it 65% plus?
PCR, I think, has hit the peak. Now it is for us to capitalize the strong PCR numbers. For that, in the bank, we have got several schemes going on now. We are trying to maximize in Q3 and Q4 so that we get the benefit of substantial write-back, number one. Number two, in NCLT accounts, there are about 39,000 crore locked up out of 56,000. And in NCLT accounts, our PCR is about 89%. There is huge opportunity there. So that is what also we are going to cash on.
Great, Mr. Das. Thanks so much for joining us today on the show. Lovely having you with us. And on that note, we'll take a very short break.